My fiance's coworkers told her I was too controlling for not letting her attend parties with male colleagues, so I cut her off. But now she realizes nobody else wants her. My name is Blake, and I'm 29 years old. I work as a civil engineering supervisor here in Atlanta, and I've been in the workforce since I was 19. From day one, I made it a priority to save money and invest smart rather than blow my paychecks on unnecessary things. This disciplined approach paid off when I was able to buy my own house at 26, and I drive a reliable 2019 Chevy Silverado that's completely paid off. My best friend Ryan always jokes that I'm quietly wealthy because I live well below my means. But the truth is, I've just been consistent with my financial planning. At this point, I've got about $170,000 in savings and various investments. My daily routine is pretty structured and has been for years. I wake up at 5:45 every morning without fail and hit the gym for a solid hour before starting my workday. By 7:15 sharp, I'm on site and ready to tackle whatever challenges the day brings. As a supervisor, I manage anywhere from 7 to 9 civil engineering projects at any given time. The work ranges from complex bridge repairs to large-scale infrastructure developments that can span several months or even years. My job involves coordinating with concrete crews, steelworkers, surveyors, and basically every type of construction professional you can imagine. I handle city permits, oversee material deliveries, manage safety inspections, and keep everything running on schedule and under budget. It's stressful as hell, but I'm genuinely good at what I do. There's something deeply satisfying about building things that will last for generations. I love watching foundations get poured, seeing structures rise from the ground up, knowing that families will be using these bridges and buildings for decades to come. The house I bought is a modest 4-bedroom, 2-bath place in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing fancy or flashy. I got it for $185,000 when the market was down a few years back. It's got a nice back deck where I can relax after long days, a decent-sized yard, and most importantly, a solid foundation. Over the years, I've been slowly upgrading it myself during weekends and evenings. I refinished all the hardwood floors, updated the kitchen cabinets to something more modern, and installed new light fixtures throughout the house. My favorite part of the house is the workshop I set up in the basement. I spend my spare time down there restoring old tools and furniture. It's become something of a hobby. There's something therapeutic about taking a piece of vintage equipment that's been neglected and bringing it back to life. I know it probably makes me sound about as exciting as watching concrete cure, but I was genuinely content with my life. I had a solid routine, financial security, and clear plans for the future. Everything felt stable and on track. That contentment lasted until I met my ex-wife Chelsea about 4 years ago at a friend's barbecue. She was working as a marketing coordinator at some startup downtown, which basically meant she spent her days managing Facebook pages and social media accounts for small businesses. But none of that mattered when I first saw her. Chelsea was absolutely stunning. Chelsea was the type of woman who turned heads everywhere she went. She had this gorgeous auburn hair that always looked perfectly styled, striking green eyes, and a figure that could stop traffic. The day I met her, she was wearing this beautiful blue sundress that seemed to catch everyone's attention. Every single guy at that barbecue was trying to find excuses to talk to her, offering to get her drinks, asking about her work, making jokes to try to impress her. But for some reason that I still don't fully understand, she kept coming back to talk to me. While I was manning the grill and focused on making sure the chicken didn't burn, she'd wander over and strike up conversations. "You're different from the other guys here," she said at one point, settling into the chair next to me while I flipped the meat. "You seem so stable and reliable." At the time, I took that as a genuine compliment. Looking back now, I realized she was probably sizing me up as a potential provider, evaluating my financial stability and dependability. We ended up talking for hours that day, long after the sun started setting and most of the other guests had moved inside. She told me all about her job in marketing, how she was trying to build her own personal brand on social media, and stories about her family back in Tennessee who owned a small restaurant. I found myself opening up to her about my work, explaining the engineering projects I was managing, my investment strategy, and my 6-year plan for building wealth and eventually starting my own construction company. What struck me was how genuinely interested she seemed in everything I was saying. She asked detailed questions about engineering timelines, what it was like managing different crews, whether I enjoyed the business side of construction or preferred the hands-on technical work. Most people's eyes glaze over when I start talking about concrete curing times or permit processes, but Chelsea was hanging on every word. "It's so refreshing to meet a man who actually has his life together," she said, as the evening wound down and we were sitting alone on the back patio. Most guys my age are just playing video games and living with roommates, spending their paychecks on stupid stuff. You actually have goals and you're actively working toward them. That's incredibly attractive. I was completely smitten. Here was this gorgeous, intelligent woman who not only appreciated my responsible lifestyle, but seemed to genuinely share my values about building something stable and lasting. Our first official date was the following weekend, and I was nervous as hell. I picked her up at her apartment, a small one-bedroom place that she shared with a roommate in a decent part of town. I had made reservations at this upscale steakhouse downtown, the kind of place where you need to dress up and the wine list has bottles that cost more than most people's car payments. Chelsea ordered the most expensive item on the menu without even hesitating, a 48 AC ribeye with lobster tail. I figured she was just treating herself since it was a special occasion, and I wanted to make a good impression. What I didn't realize at the time, and what should have been a massive red flag, was that she spent the first 12 minutes of our meal taking photos of her food from every conceivable angle. Before she took a single bite, she must have snapped 25 different pictures of that steak. She was adjusting the lighting by moving the candle around, trying different angles with her phone, rearranging the side dishes to create better compositions. I sat there watching this elaborate photo session, thinking it was a bit odd, but not wanting to say anything that might come across as judgmental on our first date. Looking back now, there were red flags everywhere that I completely ignored because I was so infatuated with her. She always wanted to go to the most expensive restaurants in the city, never suggesting that we cook something together at home or grab casual food from a food truck. When we'd look at menus, she'd browse through all the options and somehow always land on the priciest items. Whether we were at a steakhouse or a sushi place, she constantly talked about her coworkers' designer purchases, showing me photos on her phone of handbags and shoes that cost more than my monthly truck payment. She'd scroll through Instagram while we were together, pointing out outfits and accessories that she found inspiring, most of which had price tags that made my head spin. And then there were those endless photos of everything. Every single meal became an 18-minute photo session before we could actually eat. She'd take pictures of her outfit before we left her apartment, selfies of us together in the car, photos of the restaurant's exterior, multiple shots of our food, and then more photos throughout the evening. It was like she was documenting every moment for some kind of social media portfolio. What really should have tipped me off was how Chelsea talked about money and what she felt she deserved in life. She'd make these casual comments like, "I deserve nice things," and "Life's too short to settle for cheap stuff," whenever we'd pass by luxury stores or expensive restaurants. When I'd mention my investment accounts or talk about the importance of saving money for the future, she'd get this glazed look in her eyes like I was speaking a completely foreign language. It was clear that long-term financial planning wasn't something that interested her or that she saw value in. But the moment I'd mention potential raises at work or talk about bonuses I might receive, suddenly she became very interested and engaged. She'd ask detailed questions about how much extra money I might make, when I expected to receive it, and what I planned to do with the additional income. The contrast between her disinterest in saving and her fascination with earning was stark, but I was too smitten to see it as the warning sign it clearly was. Despite all these red flags that seem so obvious now, I was completely head over heels for this woman. Chelsea seemed sweet most of the time, and she kept talking about how much she wanted to settle down with a man who had his life together. She'd say things like, "I'm so tired of dating boys who don't have any ambition or direction, and I want to be with a real man who knows what he wants and how to get it." These comments made me feel like I was exactly what she was looking for, that my stability and responsibility were genuine assets in her eyes. We dated for about 11 months before I decided to propose. The engagement ring ended up costing me $15,500, and naturally, Chelsea had picked it out herself. We had gone to the jewelry store just to look around, she said, but somehow we ended up spending 4 hours there while she tried on different rings and compared various settings and stone sizes. She found this stunning 1-carat diamond solitaire that caught the light beautifully, and she went on and on about how perfect it was and how it was exactly what she'd always dreamed of having. She even took a photo of herself wearing it and posted it on Instagram with the caption, "A girl can dream, right?" complete with heart eye emojis. I definitely took the hint and understood what she was hoping for. I went back to that same jewelry store the following week, and the sales guy remembered me immediately. He had the ring all ready to go, already sized and in a beautiful presentation box. When I proposed to Chelsea at her favorite upscale restaurant, She acted completely surprised, even though she'd basically orchestrated the entire thing. The photos she posted of the proposal and the ring got more likes than anything she'd ever shared before. Planning our wedding turned out to be another expensive lesson in Chelsea's taste for luxury. What started as a reasonable $22,000 budget somehow ballooned into a $45,000 extravaganza. I had originally suggested we could have a beautiful ceremony for the smaller amount and use the remaining money as a down payment on a bigger house for our future family. But Chelsea had completely different ideas about what our wedding should look like. She wanted the full fairy tale experience. A designer dress that cost $3,800, a professional photographer whose packages started at $4,500, premium flowers that cost nearly $2,000, an upgraded catering package that was $65 per person instead of $35, an open bar that added another $1,800 to the bill, and a live band instead of a DJ, which cost an additional $3,200. Every time I questioned one of these expenses or suggested a more budget-friendly alternative, Chelsea would say, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime event, Blake. I want our wedding to be absolutely perfect." She'd also add, "Don't you want me to have the wedding of my dreams? And this is important for my personal brand too. These photos will be on my Instagram forever, and I want them to look amazing." Eventually, I took out a personal loan to cover the extra costs because I wanted Chelsea to be happy, and I didn't want to start our marriage with her feeling like I denied her something important. The wedding was absolutely beautiful. I'll give her that. Chelsea looked stunning in her expensive dress, and all the professional photos turned out magazine quality. Her Instagram followers went absolutely crazy over the pictures, and she gained about 600 new followers just from the wedding posts alone. She was posting wedding content for weeks afterward, milking every photo for maximum engagement and likes. That's when my buddy Ryan became absolutely crucial to this story, and I need to tell you about him because he ends up being the hero who saves my ass. Ryan works in construction with me as a crane operator, and he's been my best friend since we were in high school together. We played baseball on the same team, went through our wild college years together, and he was my best man at the wedding. He's got this incredible ability to read people and situations that borders on supernatural, plus he's hilarious and completely honest about everything. Ryan is the type of guy who will tell you exactly what he thinks, whether you want to hear it or not. He doesn't sugarcoat anything or try to spare your feelings if he thinks you're making a mistake. He's also never been married himself, and he always says it's because he's seen too many good guys get completely taken to the cleaners by women who saw them as walking ATMs rather than actual partners. At our wedding reception, Ryan took one look at Chelsea and her new friend group that she'd been assembling, and he pulled me aside for a conversation that I should have taken much more seriously. "Man, your wife is about to become a major problem," he told me straight up while we were standing at the bar. Chelsea was off taking photos with her bridesmaids, and I thought Ryan was just being his usual cynical self. "What do you mean?" I asked, genuinely confused because everything seemed to be going perfectly. "She's got that look in her eyes like she's always calculating something," Ryan said, watching Chelsea pose for what must have been the 50th photo of the evening. "Always thinking about what she can get out of every situation, every person, every opportunity. And those friends of hers, they're trouble with a capital T. Mark my words, brother, this is going to end badly." "Come on, you're being paranoid," I protested. "They're just young women trying to make something of themselves. There's nothing wrong with being ambitious." "Nah, man, I've seen this exact scenario before," Ryan said, shaking his head. "They're not trying to build anything real. They're trying to find someone else to build it for them, and they just found their perfect target. Your wife is about to get brainwashed by these women, and you're going to pay for it." I should have listened to him from day one. Ryan has this sixth sense about people and their motivations, and looking back, he's literally never been wrong about anyone. Not once. When he gets a bad feeling about someone, there's always a good reason for it, even if it takes months or years for the truth to come out. So Chelsea starts hanging out with these three women who were all completely obsessed with becoming Instagram influencers and building their personal brands. Let me tell you about each of these characters because they're absolutely crucial to understanding how this whole situation went down and how they systematically destroyed my marriage. First, there's Mia, who's 27 years old and has been trying to build her brand for 7 long years while living in her parents' basement. She's managed to accumulate maybe 200 followers during all that time, and she makes about $55 a month from tiny sponsorships and affiliate marketing. She drives her mom's 2016 Honda Accord, but somehow manages to make her Instagram look like she's living some kind of glamorous, jet-setting lifestyle. Mia posts these inspirational quotes overlaid on beach photos that she probably took during one vacation 3 years ago. And she's constantly talking about manifesting abundance and living your best life. Meanwhile, her biggest monthly expense is literally her phone bill, and she's never held a real job for more than 6 months at a time. But she presents herself as this successful entrepreneur and lifestyle guru to anyone who will listen. Then there's Brooke, who teaches part-time pilots classes at a local studio, but spends most of her time posting workout photos in barely there outfits that leave nothing to the imagination. Brooke has managed to build up about 8,500 followers, mostly thirsty guys who follow her for obvious reasons, and she makes maybe $220 a month from fitness sponsorships and selling workout plans that she probably copied from other influencers. Brooke's whole brand is posting these sweaty gym selfies with captions about empowerment and knowing your worth and not settling for less than you deserve. She's constantly talking about living authentically and following your passion, but she's basically just selling sex appeal disguised as fitness motivation. Her content is all about building confidence and taking control of your life, which sounds empowering until you realize she's living paycheck to paycheck and has no real plan beyond hoping her follower count will somehow magically translate into actual income. And then there's the ringleader of this whole operation, Vanessa, who's 28 years old and actually has built up around 78,000 followers by posting about her luxury lifestyle. Vanessa's Instagram is filled with photos from expensive restaurants, luxury hotels, designer shopping trips, and exotic vacation destinations. She presents herself as an entrepreneur and lifestyle coach, selling courses about building your brand and monetizing your influence. But Ryan figured out pretty quickly that this whole luxury lifestyle was being funded by some older guy she was seeing. Basically a sugar daddy situation that she kept completely hidden from her public image. Vanessa never posted photos with this guy or mentioned him in any of her content, but somehow she was always traveling to expensive places and wearing designer clothes while claiming to be financially independent through her business ventures. These 3 women would come to our house twice a week for what they called content creation sessions. And let me tell you, it was like watching a professional film production take over my living room. They'd show up at 6:30 in the evening with multiple bags full of equipment, ring lights, cameras, reflectors, props, and different outfits. I'm talking about professional grade stuff that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. They'd completely take over my living room, moving all my furniture to the walls and setting up these elaborate lighting setups that looked like something you'd see on a movie production. Then they'd spend the next 5 hours taking hundreds upon hundreds of photos of themselves, pretending to laugh and have deep conversations that were completely fabricated for the camera. And I mean hundreds of photos. I'm not exaggerating here. I watched Brooke take 52 different photos of herself holding the same protein shake, adjusting her pose slightly each time. The fake enthusiasm alone was enough to drive anyone with half a brain completely crazy. They'd be posing with wine glasses that were actually filled with grape juice because they didn't want to actually get drunk and mess up their makeup or lose focus during the shoot. The whole thing was this elaborate charade of throwing their heads back in exaggerated laughter, pointing at nothing in particular, making these ridiculous surprised faces like someone had just told them the most amazing news of their lives. They'd practice different expressions in my bathroom mirror, coaching each other on which angles worked best and how to make their smiles look more natural and spontaneous. The constant chatter during these sessions was like nails on a chalkboard to me. Every few minutes I'd hear, "Oh my God, that's so cute. Take another one." Or, "Wait, let me fix my hair real quick," or, "The lighting is perfect right now, don't move." They'd critique each other's poses with comments like, "This angle makes my legs look longer, and this is definitely going to get so many likes when I post it." They'd change outfits 4 or 5 times during these marathon sessions, and my living room would end up looking like a clothing store had literally exploded in it. There would be dresses thrown over chairs, shoes scattered everywhere, and makeup and hair products covering every flat surface in the room. They'd use my bathroom as a changing room and styling station, leaving behind a disaster zone of cosmetics and hair tools. Even after they left, I'd be finding evidence of their presence for weeks afterward. Fake eyelashes somehow stuck to my bathroom mirror, lipstick stains on my hand towels that took multiple washes to come out, and those sticky ring light clips still attached to my furniture long after they'd packed up and gone home. But the real problem wasn't the mess or the noise or even the invasion of my personal space twice a week. The real problem was what these women were systematically filling Chelsea's head with during these sessions. Suddenly, My wife was talking about how she deserved more out of life, how she was wasting her youth and her potential, how she needed to invest in her brand by buying expensive skincare sets that cost $450 and outfits for content creation that ran $650 each. Vanessa was by far the worst influence out of the three of them. She'd constantly tell Chelsea things like, "You're so much prettier than most influencers I know," and "With your looks, you could easily have 120,000 followers if you just committed to this seriously." She'd plant these seeds about how investment in your appearance is investment in your future, and you're literally sitting on a gold mine and not monetizing it properly. Ryan would sometimes stop by after work to grab a beer or help me with projects around the house, and he'd observe this whole circus with the most bewildered expression on his face. One time, he pulled me aside and quietly said, "These women are planning something, man. I can feel it in my bones. They're not just taking photos for fun. They're recruiting your wife for something bigger, and whatever it is, it's not going to end well for you." I didn't want to believe it at the time because Chelsea seemed happy and excited about this new hobby. But Ryan was absolutely right about everything. These women were slowly but systematically breaking down Chelsea's satisfaction with our normal, stable life while building up her desire for something more glamorous and lucrative. Chelsea started posting increasingly revealing photos on her Instagram. Bikini shots from our bathroom mirror, gym selfies where she was wearing almost nothing. Those typical mirror photos where she'd be wearing just underwear or a sports bra. When I mentioned that it made me uncomfortable to have my wife posting nearly naked pictures for thousands of strangers to see, she accused me of being insecure and trying to sabotage her growth as a content creator. "All successful influencers post content like this," she'd say dismissively. "It's called knowing your audience and giving them what they want to see. You just don't understand social media marketing or how this business actually works." She'd show me examples of other influencers who posted similar content and point to their follower counts as proof that her strategy was working. Her follower count did jump pretty dramatically, going from about 1,800 to 13,500 in just a few months. She started getting direct messages from men all over the country, and some of these guys were actually sending her money through payment apps like Venmo and Cash App just for existing and posting photos. I discovered she had made nearly $650 in 1 month just from random guys who decided to send her money with messages like "keep being beautiful" or "thanks for the content." "See," she said when I brought this up as a concern, "I told you this was a real business opportunity with serious earning potential. These men are willing to pay good money just to support my content and show their appreciation. This proves that I have real value as an influencer, and I'm just getting started." That's when she started talking seriously about maximizing her earning potential and treating her Instagram like a legitimate business instead of just a hobby. About 9 months into this whole influencer obsession, Chelsea approached me with what she called a major business opportunity that could change our lives forever. This was in late March, the night before my birthday, when instead of having a quiet evening together to celebrate, Chelsea had prepared what looked like a professional PowerPoint presentation on her laptop. I'm not kidding. She had actually created a slideshow with 14 slides that she wanted to present to me like I was a potential investor in some startup company. The first slide said, "Chelsea's Influencer Business Plan," in bold letters, with a photo of herself in a bikini as the background image. I should have known right then that this conversation was going to be completely insane, but I was still trying to be supportive of what I thought were legitimate entrepreneurial ambitions. She had charts and graphs showing projected follower growth over the next 12 months, estimated earnings at different milestone levels, and a detailed breakdown of what she called necessary investments to achieve these goals. It was actually pretty thorough and professional looking, which made the whole thing even more concerning because she'd clearly spent weeks putting this together instead of just having a casual conversation about her ideas. "Look at this," she said, clicking to slide 4 with obvious excitement. "Vanessa makes $8,500 per month with 78,000 followers, and Brooke makes $2,800 with just 8,500 followers. If I can reach 180,000 followers, which is totally achievable with the right strategy, I can easily make $8,000 to $12,000 per month from sponsorships and fan support alone. But that's not even counting the exclusive content subscriptions, personal shopping commissions, and premium services that top influencers offer." She showed me screenshots of other influencers' earnings, examples of sponsorship offers that paid $600 for a single post, and calculations showing how much money she was supposedly leaving on the table by working a regular job instead of focusing on this full-time. The numbers looked impressive on paper, but I was getting a bad feeling about where this conversation was heading. But here's the thing, she said, getting to slide 9 with a more serious expression. I need to invest heavily in my brand first if I want to compete at this level. That means professional photography sessions 3 times a week, better equipment than what I can borrow from the girls, and a complete wardrobe overhaul to match the aesthetic I'm going for. Plus, premium skincare to maintain my appearance, because my face is literally my business now. The initial investment is significant, she continued, but the return potential is absolutely enormous. This is like getting in on the ground floor of the next big thing. Here's where you come in, she said, advancing to the final slide, which just said, partnership opportunity in large letters with a photo of us together from our wedding. I need to quit my job and focus on this full-time if I want to make it work, she explained. I just need you to cover everything for maybe 9 months while I build this up to where it's generating serious income. Think of it as investing in our future financial freedom. Other couples are doing this exact same thing and making absolute bank. We could be financially independent in less than 2 years if we play this right. The manipulation was so obvious looking back. But in the moment, she had me feeling like I was the bad guy for not immediately supporting my wife's entrepreneurial dreams. She kept talking about how other husbands were investing in their wives' success, how this was the opportunity of a lifetime, and how she just needed someone who believed in her potential. She even started crying at one point, saying she'd never asked me for anything big before, and that she just needed someone who would take a chance on her. I know I can do this, Blake, she said through tears. I just need the freedom to focus on it without worrying about paying bills or having to waste 8 hours a day at that stupid job. This could change everything for us. Like a complete fool, I agreed to support her plan. The very next week, Chelsea quit her job, which had been bringing in about $42,000 annually. Money that we definitely needed to maintain our current lifestyle. So suddenly, I'm covering our $2,800 monthly mortgage, all utilities, groceries, her rapidly expanding shopping addiction, and what she called her business expenses. The spending was absolutely insane from day one. She'd come home with bags from Nordstrom, Sephora, and various boutique stores, claiming that everything was an investment in her brand and therefore a legitimate business expense. A $220 dress became content creation equipment. A $170 skincare routine became maintaining her image for sponsors. Professional hair and makeup appointments 3 times a week at $130 each became business necessities for photo shoots. She got her nails done every single week for $85 because, as she explained it, hands are always visible in photos, and followers notice details like that. She even justified a $450 designer handbag as a prop that would appear in multiple posts, making it a cost-effective investment in her content quality. I started keeping track of her expenses just out of morbid curiosity, and the numbers were staggering. In her first month of full-time influencing, she spent $400 on clothes, $850 on beauty treatments, $650 on professional photography sessions, and $450 on various props and accessories. That's $350 in expenses during a month when she made maybe $220 from actual sponsorships. When I brought up this obvious math problem, she had an answer ready. You have to spend money to make money, Blake. Every successful influencer invests heavily in their brand during the startup phase. This is just the initial investment period, and then the returns will start coming in exponentially. This is how business works. Ryan's reaction when I told him about this arrangement was absolutely priceless. Dude, you just became a sugar daddy to your own wife, he said, shaking his head in disbelief. It's not like that, I protested weakly. She's building a legitimate business. A business where you pay all the expenses and she keeps all the profits? Ryan shot back. That's not a business, man. That's a hobby funded by her husband. Wake up before this gets even worse. For about 5 months, Chelsea posted content somewhat regularly and managed to grow her followers to around 19,500. She was making maybe $950 monthly from small sponsorships and affiliate marketing, which was nowhere near enough to justify the thousands she was spending, but at least she was putting in some effort and producing content on a consistent basis. But then she started getting lazy and entitled about the whole thing. She'd sleep until 11:30 in the morning, then spend 4 hours getting ready, doing her makeup, picking out outfits, styling her hair, only to take photos for maybe 50 minutes before calling it a day. The rest of her time was spent shopping, hanging out with her influencer friends, or scrolling through other people's content while lying on our couch. Meanwhile, I'm working 60-hour weeks trying to cover all our expenses on a single income. I'd come home completely exhausted from managing multiple construction sites all day, only to find the house looking like a tornado had hit it, no dinner prepared, and Chelsea on the couch editing photos from her brief photo session or mindlessly scrolling through Instagram to see what other influencers were posting. When I brought up this obvious imbalance in our relationship, she had a ready-made excuse. Content creation is mentally exhausting, Blake. You have no idea how much emotional energy this requires. Plus, I'm constantly networking and building relationships with potential brand partners. Just because you can't see me physically working doesn't mean I'm not working hard on growing my business. The breaking point came when I discovered she'd spent $1,500 on a single outfit for what she called a brand collaboration photo shoot. This elaborate purchase resulted in exactly 5 Instagram posts spread out over 2 weeks. When I did the math, each photo had cost us $300, and the collaboration she was so excited about turned out to be some tiny company that paid her $75 to promote their jewelry. That's when Vanessa started filling Chelsea's head with even more dangerous ideas that would ultimately destroy our marriage. Vanessa rolled up to our house one afternoon, fresh from a trip to Vegas, her Instagram bursting with photos from 5-star hotels, $350 dinners, and luxury shopping sprees. Her mystery benefactor had clearly upgraded her lifestyle significantly, and now she had her sights set on recruiting my wife into whatever arrangement was funding her lavish trips. I was working on my truck in the garage when Vanessa cornered Chelsea for what she called a strategy session about taking her earning potential to the next level. Through the open window, I heard every single word of the pitch that would ultimately blow up my marriage, and I wish I had stormed in there and shut it down immediately. "Girl, you're literally in your prime earning years," Vanessa said, in that manipulative tone she always used. "You could be making serious money with your looks and personality, but you're stuck playing housewife when you should be capitalizing on your assets. There's this whole world of opportunities you don't even know about." She started painting this picture of what she called networking companions. Beautiful, intelligent women who get paid to accompany wealthy businessmen to corporate dinners, charity events, and business functions. She insisted it was completely professional and above board, just arm candy for business events where these men needed an attractive, well-spoken woman by their side. These men are CEOs, investors, politicians, people with real money and influence, Vanessa explained. They need attractive, intelligent women for business dinners and corporate events where appearances matter. I've got regular clients who pay $1,800 just for dinner appearances, and that's just the starting rate for someone with your looks. My buddy Ryan, who was helping me work on the truck, started shaking his head and whispering under his breath. He looked dead serious when he quietly said to me, "Your wife is getting recruited into prostitution right now, and she doesn't even realize it." "But she said it was just appearances at business dinners," I whispered back, still trying to give Chelsea the benefit of the doubt. "Brother, that's exactly how this whole thing starts," Ryan said grimly. "They get them comfortable with the idea first, then gradually introduce more services and higher-paying opportunities. This is textbook recruitment tactics." For over an hour, Vanessa delivered what I can only describe as a masterclass sales pitch. She talked about the money, the luxury lifestyle, the powerful connections, and how her selective agency only worked with Fortune 500 CEOs and successful investors who were looking for high-class professional companionship. Entry level is $700 to $1,400 per evening, Vanessa revealed, and I could practically hear the dollar signs ringing in Chelsea's head. But once you build relationships with regular clients and prove you're reliable and discreet, you can charge $2,500 to $6,000 per event. And if you're open to providing additional services beyond just dinner companionship, well, the sky's really the limit. I have one client who pays me $12,000 for weekend trips to places like Napa Valley and the Hamptons. Ryan couldn't take listening to this anymore and stormed inside, slamming the garage door behind him in frustration. Vanessa smoothly explained away his reaction to Chelsea. Men get insecure when they realize what women are really capable of earning when they take control of their own financial destiny. He's probably jealous that Blake found such an ambitious wife who isn't content to just settle for an ordinary life. For 4 days after that conversation, Chelsea bounced around the house asking me these hypothetical questions about business dinners and networking events. She'd bring up scenarios like, what if someone offered me $2,000 just to have dinner with them at a nice restaurant? Or, do you think it would be weird if I went to business events with successful men who needed a companion? These weren't casual questions. She was clearly testing the waters and trying to gauge my reaction to to what Vanessa had pitched to her. Then came the bombshell that I should have seen coming from a mile away. Chelsea announced over breakfast one morning, like she was signing up for yoga classes, "I want to start doing companion work." She said it so casually that I nearly choked on my coffee. "You want to go on dates with other men for money?" I asked, trying to make sure I understood what she was actually suggesting. "They're not dates, Blake. They're business arrangements," she said defensively. "It's professional networking. These are successful businessmen who need attractive, intelligent women to accompany them to corporate events and business dinners. It's totally legitimate." "That's called escorting, Chelsea," I said bluntly, unable to believe we were actually having this conversation. She immediately went into full defensive mode, spouting every single talking point that Vanessa had obviously fed her during their strategy session. She talked about security protocols, female empowerment, taking control of her earning potential, and how this was just another form of business networking that happened to pay extremely well. When I told her that this would absolutely destroy our marriage and that I wasn't comfortable with my wife getting paid to spend intimate evenings with other men, she completely flipped the script on me. "If you're not going to support my entrepreneurial goals and my right to make money using my own assets," she said coldly, "then maybe I need to seriously reconsider whether this marriage is right for me." "Are you actually threatening to leave me if I don't let you become an escort?" I asked, completely stunned by how quickly this conversation had escalated. "I need a partner who supports my dreams and ambitions, not someone who tries to control me out of insecurity and jealousy," she replied, using language that sounded exactly like something Vanessa would say. "This is about my financial independence and my right to make choices about my own body and my own career." That's when it hit me like a freight train. I wasn't talking to my wife anymore. I was talking to someone who had been completely brainwashed and programmed by Vanessa's manipulation. The woman I had married, the person I thought I knew, was completely gone. In her place was this stranger who had been perfectly programmed to repeat every argument and justification that Vanessa had fed her. The next day at work, Ryan climbed into my truck during our lunch break with a determined look on his face. "All right, what's the plan?" he asked without any preamble. I told him about Chelsea's ultimatum and how she was basically threatening to leave me if I didn't support her decision to become an escort. "So she wants you to fund her escort career while she sleeps with other men for money," he said flatly, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. "Listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Your wife wants to sleep with other men for money while you continue to pay her rent, her food, her clothes, and all her expenses. This is not complicated." "So what should I do?" I asked, feeling completely lost and overwhelmed. "You're going to do exactly what she wants," Ryan said with a sly grin. "You're going to give her all the freedom she can handle." Ryan had developed what turned out to be an absolutely brilliant plan. And looking back, I owe him everything for thinking this through so strategically. First stop was his attorney's office, where we met with a sharp family law specialist who laid out the legal realities in very clear terms. "Since your wife voluntarily quit her job and you have no children together," the attorney explained, "you wouldn't normally owe significant alimony in a divorce. But if you can demonstrate that she abandoned the marriage to pursue prostitution, that changes everything in your favor. In Georgia, abandonment for immoral purposes means minimal financial obligation to the departing spouse." The second part of Ryan's plan involved thorough documentation of everything that was happening. We took screenshots of all of Chelsea's social media posts, especially the ones with other men and the cryptic messages about toxic relationships and knowing your worth. We tracked her spending patterns and documented all her business expenses that I had been funding. But the real shocker came when Ryan did some internet detective work that absolutely floored me. "Look at this," he said, showing me his phone after spending 25 minutes searching online. "She's already got a profile on the escort site that Vanessa recommended." I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Professional photos that I'd never seen before, costing hundreds of dollars that she must have paid for secretly. A detailed description of her services and rates, ranging from $900 for dinner companionship all the way up to $2,800 for overnight business travel. She was calling herself Amber and targeting what she described as discerning gentlemen who appreciate beauty, intelligence, and discretion. "How long has this been active?" I asked, feeling sick to my stomach. "Based on the timestamps and the reviews she's already got, about 3 weeks, Ryan said grimly. "She's not planning to become an escort, man. She's already been escorting behind your back while asking you to support it openly. And she's already got 4 5-star reviews from clients." Ryan coached me on the crucial conversation that I needed to have with Chelsea, and we practiced it during several lunch breaks over the next few days. She's going to try every manipulation tactic in the book, he warned me. She'll cry, get angry, try to make you feel guilty, promise to change, threaten to leave. The whole playbook. Don't fall for any of it. Stick to the plan and don't let her emotions derail you. Friday night arrived, and Chelsea was getting ready for another one of her networking opportunities, wearing a black dress that I'd never seen before, and that probably cost more than my monthly truck payment. This was my moment to execute Ryan's plan, and I was nervous as hell, but determined to follow through. "Hey," I said, sitting on our bed exactly like we'd practiced during our lunch break rehearsals. "I've been thinking about what you said the other day." She stopped applying mascara and turned to look at me with curiosity. "And? You're absolutely right about everything," I said, keeping my voice calm and supportive. "I have been holding you back from reaching your full potential." Her face immediately lit up with excitement and relief. "Really? You actually mean that?" "Yeah, you deserve to pursue your dreams without me standing in your way and limiting what you can achieve," I continued. "So I'm going to help you do exactly that." "Oh my God, Blake," she said, practically running over to hug me with genuine enthusiasm. "I knew you'd eventually understand how important this is. I'm so excited that we're finally on the same page about my career. I'm going to give you complete freedom to build your career however you want," I said, gently pulling back from her embrace. "Actually, I already found you the perfect apartment." She stopped mid-sentence, and I could see confusion starting to creep across her face. "What?" "It's a perfect one-bedroom place downtown, close to all the networking venues and upscale restaurants where you'll be meeting clients," I explained casually. "You can move in this weekend. I even paid the security deposit and first month's rent to get you started." "That seems really fast," she said slowly, clearly trying to process what I was telling her. "What about financial support while I'm building my business?" "Oh, about that," I said, standing up casually like we were discussing weekend plans. "I think you should be completely independent and prove to yourself that you can succeed without anyone holding you back or creating dependencies." "But I thought you were going to support me financially while I build my client base," she said, and I could hear the panic starting to creep into her voice. "Chelsea, you're about to become a successful entrepreneur making thousands of dollars per week," I replied with a smile. "You don't need me holding you back anymore or making you feel like you owe me anything." Understanding finally hit her like a brick wall, and I watched her face go from confusion to shock to anger in about 4 seconds. "Wait, what exactly are you saying here?" "I'm saying you're free," I said simply. "Completely free to pursue your career without any limitations or obligations. I'll even help you pack your stuff tonight so you can get started on your new life right away." Her expression shifted to pure anger and disbelief. "You're kicking me out of our house?" "I'm giving you exactly what you asked for," I replied calmly. "Complete freedom to pursue your career without me holding you back or making you feel guilty about your choices." "But I don't want to leave," she said, and I could hear the desperation starting to build in her voice. "I want to stay married and build my business at the same time. Why can't I have both?" "You can't do both, Chelsea," I said firmly. "You either want to be married to me or you want to be an escort who gets paid to spend intimate evenings with other men. You need to pick one, because those two things are completely incompatible." Ryan's plan had worked absolutely perfectly. She had expected me to fund her escort career while remaining married to her, giving her all the benefits of a stable relationship while she pursued other men for money. She never expected me to call her bluff and actually give her the independence she claimed to want. Ryan's plan had worked perfectly. She had expected me to fund her escort career while staying married to her, giving her all the benefits of a stable relationship and financial security while she pursued other men for money. She never expected me to call her bluff and actually give her the complete independence she claimed to want so desperately. The next 9 months were absolutely beautiful to watch unfold, and I mean that in the most satisfying way possible. It was like watching karma work in real time, delivering justice in ways that I never could have orchestrated myself. I filed for divorce the Monday morning after Chelsea moved out of our house. She was so focused on her exciting new career and setting up her downtown apartment that she didn't realize what was happening legally until she got served with papers at her new place. By then, I had already documented everything thoroughly with my attorney's help. And in Georgia, what she had done is called abandonment of the marriage for immoral purposes. That legal designation virtually guaranteed she'd receive nothing in the divorce settlement. Meanwhile, I got front row seats to watch her supposedly successful escort career completely implode through her social media posts. It turns out that actual escort work is much harder and more dangerous than Vanessa had made it sound during her recruitment pitch. Within the first week, Chelsea was posting Instagram stories about how challenging her new career path was and how she was learning to navigate difficult professional situations. She had clearly expected to just show up at fancy restaurants, look pretty, make charming conversation, and walk away with easy money. Instead, she was dealing with creepy clients who had unrealistic expectations, unsafe situations that Vanessa had never warned her about, and the harsh reality that most men who pay for escorts expect much more than dinner conversation and arm candy. She lasted about 4 weeks in the escort business before she realized that these networking events and business dinners were just wealthy men expecting intimate services in exchange for payment. Her Instagram posts went from living my best life and taking control of my financial destiny to growing through challenges, and life is teaching me hard lessons about people's true intentions. But here's what really made me smile with satisfaction. She was absolutely terrible at escort work. Chelsea had always been high maintenance, entitled, and demanding, which doesn't work well in a service industry where you're supposed to cater to other people's needs and desires. She'd post these cryptic stories about dealing with difficult people and learning to set professional boundaries. One post said something like, "Some people don't understand that this is a professional service with clear boundaries and mutual respect." Another was about recognizing red flags in business relationships and protecting your energy from toxic clients. She was clearly struggling with the reality that escort work involves dealing with men who saw her as a commodity they had purchased, rather than a person deserving of respect. She burned through her savings in exactly 7 weeks. The apartment I'd paid the deposit for was $1,950 per month, and she was making maybe $2,200 per month from escort work when she could actually stomach doing it, which was becoming less and less frequent as the reality set in. Her Instagram follower count dropped from 34,000 to 16,500 because she couldn't afford professional photography sessions anymore, and her content quality plummeted without the expensive equipment and professional styling she'd been used to. The whole carefully crafted influencer image fell apart when the money dried up. But here's the beautiful part that made everything even more satisfying. Vanessa completely disappeared from the picture once Chelsea was no longer useful to her. Vanessa's sugar daddy had apparently found a younger replacement, and suddenly, she couldn't maintain her luxury lifestyle anymore. Her Instagram went from posting about 5-star hotels and designer shopping trips to generic posts about new chapters and personal growth journeys. The entire friend group fell apart when their leader abandoned them for greener pastures. Mia went back to living with her parents and working part-time retail jobs. Brooke started teaching more pilots classes to actually pay her bills instead of relying on her tiny sponsorship income. They all stopped doing the group content creation sessions at people's houses because nobody could afford the equipment or had a nice enough place to host them. Ryan and I would occasionally check Chelsea's Instagram for entertainment, and it was like watching a completely different person. She went from posting luxury lifestyle content and inspirational quotes about knowing your worth to posting about her personal growth journey and healing from toxic relationships. Around month 5, she started posting about recognizing manipulation and emotional abuse, and how she was learning to heal from people who had taken advantage of her vulnerability. In her revised version of events, I had somehow become the villain, the controlling husband who had held her back from achieving her dreams instead of the man who had supported her financially while she pursued a career in prostitution. The divorce was finalized in month 8, and she received absolutely nothing except her personal belongings and the credit card debt she'd accumulated trying to maintain her lifestyle, which totaled about $19,500. That's when the begging started, and it was both pathetic and deeply satisfying to watch unfold. First came the text messages, which started about a week after the divorce papers were served, and she finally understood that I was serious about ending our marriage. The messages started out somewhat restrained, but became increasingly desperate as her financial situation continued to deteriorate. "I made a huge mistake, Blake," read the first message. "I miss our life together so much. I was confused by bad influences, and I wasn't thinking clearly. Can we please just talk about this?" As the weeks went by and her situation got worse, the messages became more frantic and desperate. "I never realized how good I had it with you," she texted one evening. "Those women filled my head with lies about what I could achieve on my own. I just want to come home and fix this. Please give me another chance." Then she started showing up at my job sites, which was both embarrassing and incredibly annoying. The first time, I was in an important meeting with a client about a major bridge renovation project when she pulled up in her car and just sat there waiting for me to come out. She looked terrible, thinner than I'd ever seen her, tired and worn down, wearing clothes that I'd never seen before that looked like they came from a discount store rather than the boutique shops she used to frequent. I ignored her completely and continued with my meeting. But she sat in that parking lot for over 2 hours before finally giving up and driving away. It happened 3 more times over the next month, and eventually I had to ask security at some of my job sites to keep an eye out for her car and ask her to leave if she showed up. Finally, she tried using other people as messengers, which was when I knew she was really getting desperate and running out of options. She approached Ryan at a gas station one evening when he was filling up his truck after work, and according to him, it was both pathetic and manipulative. "Please," she said, crying and actually grabbing his arm like some kind of dramatic movie scene. "You have to convince Blake to talk to me. I know I messed up badly, but I can fix this if he just gives me another chance. I've learned my lesson, and I know what really matters now." Ryan's response was absolutely perfect and exactly what I needed to hear. "Ma'am, you traded a good man for a fantasy," he told her bluntly while pulling his arm away. "That's your problem to solve, not his. Blake doesn't owe you anything." "But I learned my lesson," she pleaded desperately. "I know I made terrible mistakes and I never should have listened to those women. They took advantage of me when I was vulnerable and confused about what I wanted." "You didn't make mistakes," Ryan said firmly, refusing to let her rewrite history. "You made deliberate choices. You chose to believe strangers over your husband. You chose to pursue prostitution over your marriage. You chose to prioritize money and some fantasy lifestyle over love and stability. Now you get to live with the consequences of those choices for the rest of your life. But here's the real revenge, the truly sweet karma that makes this whole story worth telling, and that still makes me smile every time I think about it. I had been investing all the money that I was no longer spending on Chelsea's lifestyle, about $400 monthly that had previously gone to her endless shopping sprees, dining out at expensive restaurants, professional photography sessions, and various business expenses. Instead of wasting that money on funding her Instagram thirst trap career, I put every single dollar into a diversified portfolio of index funds and real estate investments. By the time our divorce was finalized 8 months later, I had made approximately $44,000 in investment returns. The market was particularly good to me during that period, and my construction industry knowledge helped me identify some undervalued real estate opportunities that paid off handsomely. I used that money as a down payment on a rental property, a nice 4-bedroom house in a good school district that now generates $1,050 in monthly passive income. I also paid off my Chevy Silverado completely, eliminating that monthly payment, and built up my emergency fund to a solid $55,000. 9 months after Chelsea left, I'm financially better off than I've ever been in my entire life. My net worth has increased by over $82,000 since she walked out that door, and I'm on track to be a millionaire by age 37. This never would have happened while I was funding her expensive lifestyle and unrealistic business ventures. I'm also dating an elementary school teacher named Jessica, who I met through a friend at work. Jessica is 27 years old, teaches 3rd grade, and is the complete opposite of Chelsea in every single way that actually matters in a relationship. Jessica thinks my Chevy Silverado is practical and reliable instead of embarrassing. She genuinely enjoys cooking dinner with me every evening instead of treating it like a chore that's beneath her. She has exactly 425 Instagram followers and posts pictures of her classroom, her dog, and occasionally a beautiful sunrise. She's never once taken a photo of her food before eating it. When I told Jessica the whole story about my ex-wife's escort career, she looked genuinely confused and said, "Why would anyone want to do that? That sounds dangerous and degrading." It was refreshing to be with someone who had normal values and common sense. Jessica appreciates our quiet, stable life together. She thinks it's attractive that I'm responsible with money and have long-term financial goals. She actually thinks it's cute that I restore old tools in my basement workshop, and she'll often sit down there with me while I work, reading a book or grading papers from her students. We take weekend trips to state parks for hiking, cook meals together at home instead of always eating out, and we're already talking about buying a bigger house together in a year or two when we're ready to take that next step. Chelsea, last I heard through mutual friends, is now working retail at a clothing store in a strip mall, living with 4 roommates in a sketchy apartment complex, and still desperately trying to become an influencer with about 200 followers. She's back to posting about wanting to find a good man and build a stable life, which is incredibly ironic considering she had both of those things and threw them away for a fantasy. The escort career lasted exactly 5 months before it completely fell apart. Turns out that when you're entitled, high maintenance, and not actually willing to do the difficult and often degrading work that's required, even prostitution doesn't pay well. According to Ryan's sources, who seem to know everything that happens in this city, she quit after a particularly aggressive client made her realize exactly how dangerous the whole situation actually was. She's been trying to date through various apps, but apparently it's not going well at all. Ryan showed me some of her recent posts where she's complaining about men only wanting one thing and being tired of playing games. The irony is absolutely incredible when you think about it. She left a marriage where she was genuinely loved and protected to enter a world where she was literally just another commodity to be purchased. And now she can't understand why men continue to treat her that way. But the story gets even better, and this part still makes me laugh every time I think about it. Last month, she actually contacted me through a mutual friend, someone from that original barbecue where we first met, asking if I could help her with rent because she was going through what she called temporary financial difficulties. The mutual friend called me up and said, "I know this is weird and probably the last thing you want to deal with, but Chelsea asked me to reach out to you. She's really struggling financially right now and wanted to know if you might be willing to help her out just this once. She's behind on rent and doesn't have anywhere else to turn." My response was absolutely perfect, and I'm still proud of how I handled it. I sent our mutual friend a screenshot of my current investment portfolio balance, which now shows over $235,000, along with a photo of the rental property I bought with the money I used to waste on her lifestyle. Then I replied, "Tell Chelsea that the boring, stable life she used to mock and take for granted is working out pretty well for me. She made her choice when she decided that being an escort was more appealing than being a wife. Good luck with her networking career." The friend reported back to me later that Chelsea had blocked me on all social media platforms after receiving that message, which was perfectly fine by me. I have no interest in maintaining any connection with someone who destroyed our marriage for money and then had the audacity to ask for financial help when her plan inevitably failed. The whole experience taught me some valuable lessons about recognizing red flags in relationships and not ignoring obvious warning signs just because someone is attractive. Chelsea's materialism, her obsession with social media validation, her entitled attitude about money, and her willingness to be influenced by toxic people were all clear indicators of her character that I chose to overlook. I also learned the importance of having friends like Ryan who aren't afraid to tell you the truth even when it's something you don't want to hear. If I had listened to his warnings from the beginning, I could have saved myself a lot of money and emotional pain. But then again, if I hadn't gone through this experience, I might never have met Jessica or learned to appreciate what a healthy relationship actually looks like. Looking back, Chelsea did me a massive favor by showing her true colors and removing herself from my life. I'm in a much better place financially, emotionally, and personally than I ever was during our marriage. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out, and you just have to be smart enough to not let it back in when it realizes it made a mistake. The best part is that I know this story will only get better with time. I'll continue building wealth and enjoying a stable relationship with someone who shares my values, while Chelsea will continue struggling with the consequences of her choices. Karma doesn't always work this perfectly, but when it does, it's absolutely beautiful to watch.